I'm Jess Englehart, born August the 7th, 1931, in Advance, Missouri. I worked on my father's farm until I turned 18 in August, so September that I wanted to go in the Marine Corps.
When you were 18?
Yes, as soon as I turned 18. And this was more of a challenge than anything else because my friends that I run around with in school were identical twin brothers. And they went in the Marine Corps, but they was a year older than I was. So I couldn't go in when they did, but they came back from boot camp and said it was so hard that they said that he said you don't want to go in the Marine Corps because you probably can't handle it. Well, that was a challenge that I took, and I handled it for 22 years. So
22 years since then.
Yes.
Tell me about your school days. What school did you go and?
I went to Lutzville High School in Lutzville, Missouri. At the time that I was discontent in my senior year, and I didn't finish my senior year, about halfway through, I quit school, and that's when I went in the Marine Corps, and I didn't finish my high school education till after I was in the Marine Corps for a while. And then I took the GED tests and all, and got my high school education.
So you said it was 18 years old, and it's 1949, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did you know about the Korean War broke out?
At the time that I went in, I wasn't aware of the Korean War. After 13 weeks in boot camp, then they sent me to engineer school in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Finished there, they sent me to...
What did you learn from there?
A lot about basic road building, airfield building, and everything to be a combat engineer. And they teach you all the basics of the different types of equipment and the use that you need to do this type of work. And so from there they sent me to El Toro Air Base in California, and I was there approximately a month. And they said that they wanted us to pack up and take enough clothes and everything to last for 30 days. We was going aboard ship. Well, we did that, went aboard ship, but the 30 days ended when we landed in Kobe, Japan. So then from there, we got onto LSTs and made the landing in Korea.
When did you leave for Korea? When?
I don't know the exact date we left the States, but I know that I landed in Korea on the 4th of August, 1950.
4th of August, 1950?
Yes.
Did you know or did you hear about what's going on in Korea? What was the situation there and so on?
I was a PFC at the time. Being a PFC, you don't get any details other than they tell you what to do and you say yes sir, you do it, and there's no question back of why or where or anything like that. It's you've got an order, you're going to follow through with it, and that's what I did.
You didn't know about anything about Korea, right?
At that time, no.
No. And how did you feel about being dragged into a country and you don't know nothing about it and you might be killed?
Well, at that time it's a little scary, but I am one that gets seasick on a ship. I was sick for 30 days, and I said that if the good Lord will let me, let's get off this ship regardless of where we're going, what we're going to do. I wanted to get off that ship until we landed in Busan. and we went ashore, and we set up our perimeter, dug foxholes, and the first night we was there, the machine gun fire and so forth was pretty strong, and I asked myself and the good Lord, what was I doing there? Because, you know, it just, you didn't expect that much that soon. And, but it doesn't take long to get in your mind that there's someone out there trying to kill you, and you get the feeling soon that, okay, if I see him, I'm going to get him first. And so I kind of kept that attitude to the rest of the time that I was in Korea. But,
How was you were in the Busan perimeter then?
yes. The unit that I was with was a close air support unit. We directed airstrikes. If infantry needed an airstrike, they would radio us. We would call in the plane, and we would give them the coordinates and everything where they. And so this is why that we stayed up with the infantry all the time. The infantry was good at protecting us because they needed our support. We were a small unit, but we were an important unit in the war.
That means that you have to be in the area where the airstrike's going to be done, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's dangerous.
It turned out to be a little bit dangerous after a while, because I know we set up, and where the other gentleman was talking that they set up, we set up our perimeter, and we were still inside of the main perimeter guarded by the infantry. But it came time that the Chinese overrun one of the hills up there, and they called us out, and we become infantrymen. That's your first thing that you are. That's your main priority in the Marine Corps, is you're a rifleman.
Was North Korea winning at the time?
At that time, no. Or I guess maybe they were, because we, from Busan, we left there and we was going to move to go around and make the Incheon landing. Well, the Army had moved up to hold the Chinese back across the Naktong River. We'd run them across the river. They set up a perimeter, and then the Army moves in and holds that perimeter. And so we left, but the Army had left something because the Chinese came back across the river, and so we...
Well, Chinese?
Well, at this time it was North Korean, so...
North Korean, right.
Yes.
Yeah, there was no Chinese in August.
No, at that time, no.
Yeah, so it was mistake, right?
Yes,
said,
I was saying Chinese because they came in later, but then after that was established, then we went aboard ship again and made the Incheon landing.
So you were part of Incheon landing?
Yes.
Ah.
And one of the things that about the Incheon landing, the tide there, if you're going in on ship or LSTs, they say that the tide, I don't know for sure, but they said it raises a total of 28 feet. And so if some of the LSTs didn't get offloaded, the tide went out. They sat there on the ground, on the mud, until the tide came back in, and they could. But then we went all the way through up to Seoul, and then we went across Kimpo Airfield, and there was dead bodies all over the field. I mean, it was just, and you had to move around to keep from walking on dead bodies. And these were North Koreans, so we went up to the top of the hill up there. On there was
in Seoul.
In Seoul,
yeah.
There was. They said it was a Korean musical school or something, or some kind of school that we just set up in for a short period of time. And that's, I don't know, I'd say we was probably there maybe close to a week to move forward.
What was the scene of Seoul when you just entered into it?
It's hard to explain because Seoul itself seemed like it was, at that time, was more modernized than the outer communities or small villages were, because the small villages had thatch roofs, straw roofs and stuff like that that was typical over there. And but in Seoul, there was more of a permanent type of buildings than I know where we set up. That up on the hill there was the buildings were fairly nice.
So not much devastation there?
At that time, no, there wasn't. Now, we came across areas getting to that point, but like I say, if you don't have to, the things you don't want to destroy, things that you don't have to destroy, and I guess that's why that this college or school that's there, why it was still standing in pretty good shape.
Were there any dangerous moments up to the Seoul recovery to you?
Well, not especially at that time, because we following the infantry close, but there's actions that goes on, and some of the cruel things that you see in a war like that, the enemy laying out there dead, and you see people out there with their rifles knocking out their gold teeth and stuff like that, that is, regardless of who it is, that type of treatment is not, shouldn't be.
What was your rank?
At that time, I was PFC.
PFC.
Yes.
How much did you actually receive as a salary by month?
When I don't know at that time, I don't think it increased too much, but I was getting $75 a month.
$75?
Yes.
What did you do with that money?
Not too much, but
were there anything that you had to buy or you spent for?
No. If you're single and you living on the base, and everything's furnished, you have the mess hall, you have, and they issue you clothing to start with. Then each month they give you $6 or $8 towards your clothing allowance, which was pretty adequate. And
how often did you have a shower?
In Korea, it was infrequent, because I'm trying to think, maybe sometimes 2 or 3 weeks, and then it just, you didn't have the facilities. You didn't, later when you moved where it was cold, you just didn't have any possibility of having a shower, because everything was frozen, and really you wasn't worried about being clean, because you was just worrying about staying alive. And
must be very smelly.
well, just put on more clothes and they can't smell it. But no, it was.
Did you have a chance to have a warm food, hot meal?
One of the things that our unit was blessed with, we had a master sergeant, and in the Marine Corps, when you come to the rank of master sergeant, you are pretty good at scrounging stuff. So this master sergeant we had was our mess sergeant. He would get a truck, and he would go down to the someplace down near the water, and he would get a small boat and I don't know how he worked all this, but he would go out to a ship, and they would give him fresh food that he would bring back, and he even scrounged a freezer that went in the back of a truck that run off of gasoline. And so we had frozen chicken and stuff like this going to as far as the reservoir. And then when we got up there and had to leave to go back south again, we couldn't take all this stuff with us, so we had a big bonfire and we burned everything that we had, food and everything else, rather than leave there for the enemy.
Mm. So after Seoul, where did you go?
After Seoul, then we went aboard ship, and then we made the Wonsan landing.
Huh.
And so here again, we was right behind the infantry. We was catching a rear end of what the North Koreans were, and I know that one little village we set up too close, and some of the South Korean army came in, and they went to this one house that was right before we set up, and they brought this man out, and to come to find out that he had a radio in there, that he was radioing information to the North Korean, and it's kind of gory to see someone like that get killed with a baseball bat, but they beat him to death with a baseball bat. And but that's just some of the typical things that went on, and that things like that don't bother you when it's in wartime, because you get used to it, and but
so after landing in Wonsan, what happened to you?
Well, we advanced all the way up to, and here again, the names of the towns and stuff like that, Hagaru and all these, I remember I was there, but I don't know in what sequence that I was. And we set up just at the reservoir where the water, we was probably a quarter of a mile from the reservoir where we set up. And
must be Udamni, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was a small airfield that landed where the observation planes would come in and get fuel and land, and that was within that area too. But because I've talked to one of the people that was in the outfit here a couple of years ago, and at that time he was a staff sergeant, and I didn't know him as such, because like I say, if you're a staff NCO in the Marine Corps, you don't associate with the peons, and but he said that there was a plane that got shot down and landed on the ice down to reservoir, and they went down there and confiscated some radios out of it that we needed for our unit. And he said that it was just lucky that they got there when they did, because another detail was sent out there to have it blow the plane up, and destroy it. But he said they got the radio out before they destroyed the plane.
So you actually saw that plane destroyed?
No, I didn't myself, no, because like I say again, I was within the unit, I was their engineer as such. Like I say again, because I had gone through basic construction school at the Marine Corps, but anything that needed to be built or done like that, set up the mess hall and stuff like that, this was the type of work that I did. I didn't do anything with the radio or anything.
What unit you belong? Your 1st Division, right?
Yes.
And?
It was what they call a Marine Tactical Air Control Squadron. with MTAX 2. And they have
Marine?
Yes.
Marine Tactical?
Marine Tactical Air Control Squadron.
Tactical Air Control.
And a close air support unit that I was in. Now there was an air defense portion that stayed back behind down, and they were more in, took care of the defense than up front like we were.
Yeah. I had an interview with many chosen few, and they talk about this important role played by this, the carriers and the air runways that you had to build, and then you have to build the bridges and so on.
Yes.
Tell me about those details, if you were involved in one of those.
Well, at this time, later in my career, I was. But being that we were air control, that was our main mission. We didn't do anything as far as the roads or anything like that, because we just did what was needed to be done for our unit to survive.
So you were not involving making the runway there in Udamni area or any?
No.
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 And but when we was there, the Army was to hold a hill, pretty steep, good sized hill, not far from where we was at. But this was when the Chinese came, and the Chinese took the hill over again. So we had to go back, and that's when they called out everybody that was available with rifles and everything to retake that hill, because that was an important thing for us, because the enemy would be up above and they could use mortars or anything else and just direct fire to us, you know. And but I know going up this hill, I was one that I'd never buckled my chin strap on my helmet. I had my helmet shot off twice. And we got up closer to the bunker at the top, and this Chinese up there threw what they like a potato masher hand grenade, and it landed about 10 feet from me, and it didn't go off. It just spewed, and that was the end of it. Well, after that, called in an airstrike, and the Marine Corsair came in, and to me it just felt like he flew in and just stopped over top of this bunker and dropped a napalm. Well, that took care of our situation there, and so we took the hill, and the Marines held it then until we got ready to move out of the reservoir.
I went to the Marine Corps Museum in Quantico, and they were really proud of the Jangjin battle, because they think that is the three severe, most, memorable war that Marine got involved. It's Belaut and Iwo Jima, and it's Jangjin. And you were there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, you actually were there, one of the three biggest battle in Marine Corps history. Looking back those years, what do you think?
Well, it was just a fate, I guess, that I was there, because, and the way it turned out with our unit, we only, when we took the hill, there was two of my buddies that went up to take, and so they never came back, and I never heard from them again. So I don't know if they were killed or what, you know. And normally, most of the time, we never leave a Marine behind if we know that they're, and but I don't know about what happened to these two buddies. But I know coming out of the reservoir, we had a few vehicles, and we was bringing out a convoy, and the only vehicle that got destroyed was a radio jeep that got around through the motor, and so that put it out of commission, and we started pushing it over the side of the road down the mountain, put some hand grenades in there so it'd blow up as it went over, and so when they couldn't survive or couldn't get the radios out of it. And I know that we had a good leader to bring us out. If you've researched the Marine Corps much, Chesty Puller, he was a colonel at the time, and he walked the line, the convoy, back and forth to make sure that everybody was out doing their thing. And
you saw him?
Oh yes, and it just happened that, and this was at nighttime. He walked by the Jeep, radio Jeep, and he seen that somebody was in the Jeep, and he yelled in there and told them to get themselves out of there and get a rifle and help us, you know. We need it. And he said, well, I'm Major Chris Lee. He said, you don't talk to me that way. He says, I don't give a who you are. He said, you get out of here. And but he was one person that you could say he was proud to serve under him.
You have a badge of Star of Godori, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in your chest, right?
Yes.
Let me zoom in. No, I'm not talking about that medal. The badge.
Oh, okay.
Over your black necktie.
Here?
Yes, that one. Where did you get it?
There's a magazine that comes out that has all types of medals and everything, and being that I belonged to the Chosen Few organization, and we get publications like that and yeah, I have pride in wearing it.
Do you know about that badge? Why people made it?
No.
No?
No. And it just know that anything to do with the patches or anything like that involves the chosen few, I try to get them when I can.
Okay, let me ask you about those, what do you call that?
These ribbons,
Yeah,
medals?
ribbons and medals. What is it?
Well, some of these is from Korea, and some of them for Vietnam. And
You went to Vietnam or two?
I went to Vietnam, 2 tours in Vietnam, 13 months each time.
But there were Korean soldiers too, right?
Yes.
Korean military there.
Yes.
Did you fight together?
We wasn't together. I didn't see them at the time, but I heard a lot about them, and they were spoke highly of. I mean, they didn't take any guff off anybody, and they were fighters, and that's makes you think that they's part of the Marine Corps, you know. And
I mean, you came to Korea to save the nation, and Korea was devastated, but now Korean soldiers are fighting with you.
yes.
Yeah. What did you feel about it?
Well, one of the things I feel about all the Korean delegation that I've been around, and in the past year it's been quite a bit, and I know one time they invited us to Atlantic City, and they had a show and a banquet and all this for us, you know, and they had some older gentlemen sitting at the door where you go in for the buffet, and I stopped and I said, I want to thank you for what you're doing for the military. You know, and he said, no. He said, if it hadn't been for you, he said, we wouldn't be here.
Oh, really?
And, you know, that makes you feel good for them to treat you that way, and our own country hadn't treated us that way. I know when I came back from Korea, we landed in San Francisco. and our own American Red Cross was selling coffee and donuts to us. And so that's just not a good example, I don't think, for to way to treat our wounded and military that's coming back from a war area.
So you must have felt proud of your Korean service because the people you saved came to fight together with you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And no, it's, I know about 3 years ago I was in Utah, and I met a lady that was working in the National Park office there.
Lee?
What?
Sunny Lee, the Korean woman?
I think. And she said, you was in Korea? I said, yes, because I was wearing a cap and everything and had everything. And she said, how would you like to go back to Korea on a tour? And I said, well, I'll think about it. And so then she called my brother. He lived in Cedar City, Utah. Called him later and said, try to encourage me to do this. And so I didn't hear any more. So 2 years ago, we was out in Las Vegas, and I got a call from my brother and said, I got a call from the lady at the park, said, where's Jess at? And he said, well, he's in Las Vegas. And he said, can you get him to come up here? Said, the Little Angels are going to, they've been performing in New York, and their next performance is in Las Vegas. And said, we've contacted them, and they've are going to perform in Cedar City at the university. And said they're going to give out medals, and said, I want Jess to have one. So I told him, I said, yeah, I'll be there. So we got there, and they had all these dances and everything. These girls were tremendous. I mean, they called, myself was the only Marine. They called an Air Force gentleman up that was in Korea, and then all the rest of them were National Guard from the unit from there that went to Korea as a unit and came back. And but a total of 10 of us was given these medals, and they put them around your neck, and the girls give you a kiss on the cheek, and this is something that's means a lot to me.
That's the presidential badge?
This
Presidential captain badge? Which one is that?
or here.
Ah. Tell me about it. When did you get it, and how did you get it?
I was stationed down after I came back from Vietnam the last time. I was stationed down at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and this major came down and...
Can you show that to the camera? Yes.
This major came down to Camp Lejeune and wanted to interview me, and I didn't know what it was all about. And he said, we're looking for someone like you with a top secret clearance and your rank to be security chief for the president at Camp David. And he said, would you volunteer? And I said, no, sir. I said, I don't volunteer for something I don't know what I'm getting into. And he said, you go home, talk to your wife, and come back this afternoon, and I'd like to talk to you again. I did this, went back, and I said, I haven't changed my mind. He said, okay. He said, you'll be hearing from me. He called me the next day from Camp David and asked me if I'd changed my mind. He called me 3 days in a row and asked me, and I said, no, sir, I haven't. I'm not going to volunteer. And he said, well, what would you do if you got orders? I said, what I've always done in the Marine Corps. I said, you have to follow through with them. He said, you expect orders. And so after another investigation to get even though I had a top secret clearance, I had to have a White House clearance, so it took them another couple months to do that. And then I went to Camp David, and once you're served for 2 years under the White House staff, then they award you this medal.
Very nice.
And so it was a privilege,
Yeah.
but it wasn't something that I would volunteer for.
Have you been back to Korea?
No, I haven't, but I'm starting to think about it pretty seriously.
You should consider to go back to the country where you fought and completely changed.
I've seen pictures and everything of it. It's tremendous to see what they've accomplished since. It just seemed like they've outdone what we do here in the States. They've really expanded. It's great.
What kind of picture did you see?
Of
What kind of scenes?
Of the city of Seoul and all that. And I have an album. I can take. I collect pictures and take pictures and all that as much as I can. I don't have as many pictures of Korea and the battle and everything as I do of Vietnam, but I don't know even there that I could have been able to get the pictures I have. But my rank when I was in Vietnam was a master sergeant. I was out and around all the time, and I could see pictures, get pictures, and I always kept a camera in my pocket, and so I've got a lot of pictures of Vietnam.
So, out of Korean War, there are strong alliance between U.S. and Korea. Korea
Yes.
fought together with Vietnam. It was a very important war, and you and many Americans sacrificed, right? But people say the Korean War was forgotten. Why? Why was it forgotten?
This is a mystery to me too, because if anything needs to be forgotten, it's the Vietnam War, because the government doesn't want us to win a war anymore, and that's like Vietnam. We could have won that war if they'd have won or two, and but it's just one of the things that they didn't, and it even bothered me that Truman relieved MacArthur when he's over there, because he had in his mind what he could do and how he could do it, but that fell through. So,
what do you think is the Korean War legacy?
I hope that, they say that the North and the South may someday unify or negotiate or whatever, but the North is not such, and especially the leaders that they have, they will not do anything unless they can take over and be in charge. And to have them ruin South Korea would be devastating, because the way that the way that I understand that they treat their natives that live out of, they're poor, they don't provide for them, and South Korea seem like they are so unified, and that everybody you talk to, you don't hear any ill feelings of the South Koreans. And like I say again, that's why that every time that we get a chance to go to a function or anything with that's put on by the South Koreans, we know that it's good, it's honest. I know when the president of South Korea was down in D.C., we was there. I mean, everything that they do is to be commended, I think.
And that's your legacy.
Yes.
You came to defense of South Korea and provided sort of the armistice actually kept us peaceful, and so that we could have economic development, such rapid economic development. Now we are the 12th, 13th largest economy, 7th largest trading partner to the United States, and it's the most substantive democracy in Asia. Look at China and Japan. I think we have accomplished two things at the very simultaneously in a very short time.
This is why that it bothers me that the schools nowadays don't teach anything in history referencing what took place in Korea, how many people suffered and died and all this, and what Korea has accomplished means that we helped them out to be where they're at. And so, like I say, only one time that I was involved, and our commander set it up that we went to high school, and Marie Goretti.
Hello America program?
Yeah, well, the three of us was there, and we just told them our experiences and what we did in Korea, and to see a whole high school set in a gymnasium listening. The students were all quiet and listening. I mean, there wasn't the normal chatter that you see in a high school like that. And when they dismissed the school, I know there was 30 or 40 of them came down and wanted to shake hands and ask us, congratulated us and stuff like this. But there was a few Korean students there, but all the students were really respectful, and it just bothers me that we don't do it in all the schools so that they know about.
Any other story that you want to share? It can be a battle, or it can be engaged with North Koreans or Chinese in the Udamni. Anything that you want to add to this interview?
Well, as I said, probably said earlier, that there's things that I forget. There's things that I remember and you don't really, you can't recall. I know coming out of the Chosun Reservoir, alongside the road in a ditch, there was a poncho spread out. And with all the snow and everything was on, this poncho had nothing on it. It was just like it was clean. And me and a buddy there, we reached down and we jerked this poncho off, and here was a Chinese laying there with a rifle across his chest, just waiting for the signal to attack our convoy again. Well, he never got up out of the ditch, but to this day, I don't know which one of us shot him. Things like that, you just, it goes blank in your mind. And the other thing coming out, we destroyed all the buildings on both sides of the road coming out, if there's one close, and have a plane come in, drop a napalm on it, and go on. And this one house in particular, and I was watching it, and that napalm landed 50 feet probably before the house. It went into the house, a ball of fire, and 2 adults and 1 child run out the other side of the house, and all they met machine gun fire, killed them all. And so there's a lot of innocent people that gets killed. You don't know who they were or what, but we're protecting our own, and that's, I guess, the hazards of war.
Any other comments that you want to make?
No, not that I can think of.
Do you have a lot of pictures? You actually brought the album.
This one is when I was going through boot camp in 19 This was taken December the 14th, 1949. And just pictures. This is aboard ship going to Korea. This was when I was going through basic construction school. And this is a picture of
Korean Peninsula.
Peninsula. These are just pictures of.
Did you take those pictures?
Yes.
You had a camera?
Yeah, I had a camera, but I didn't get a chance to use it that much. And but this is me, and that's me. This load of vehicles. It's a buddy of mine. That's me. It's me.
That's in Seoul? I mean in Korea?
In Korea. All this was in Korea, yeah.
Okay. Jesse, thank you very much again for your precious time and your sacrifice and service for Korean nation. Korea is now very strong in economy and democracy, and we couldn't do it without your fight. So I want to thank you.
Well, I thank you for what you're doing, and to me it was a privilege to get the respect that the Korean people have since then shown us, that ones that was over there.
Thank you again.
You're sure welcome, sir.
Thank you.